What's up, guys? It's Miss Lahens. I hope you guys have been having an easy time adjusting to this distance model of learning with Google Classroom. I also hope you guys are staying safe, staying at home, and washing your hands. So, our Wednesdays in Google Classroom are going to be about review. We're going to be reviewing the things you've learned this year, so it's not going to be anything you haven't seen before. I'll also be going over exactly how I'd like you to complete this work, so watch the entire video. A lot of you guys have been commenting with questions, which are fine, but the questions are all in the videos we post. So definitely keep referring to those when you're completing these assignments. So today we're going to be going over RI 7.2 again. We did this 2 weeks ago, but this should still be very fresh in your mind and something you guys should be able to do with ease. So once again, RI 7.2 is to determine two or more central ideas in a text and analyze their development over the course of the text, and provide an objective summary of text. So it's what we've been practicing with fiction and nonfiction texts. Um, and it's something that we want to practice more and get a mastery of this standard. Your learning target. So your learning target for today will be Eagle scholars will be able to review and practice finding the central idea and supporting details of a text by a brief overview of key terms and definitions and a close reading of a text. So this, like I said, should be fresh in your memory. And we're just going to be going over some of the definitions of central ideas and theme once more. And, we're going to be going over ways to find them. Then I'm going to be doing a model with the practice of what I want you guys to complete. So a review of central idea. Central idea is what you're supposed to learn about the topic. It's often stated in the text. It's the point that the author wants you to remember most. It can be stated or implied, which means that the reader has to make an inference. The central idea is also often called the main idea, which they're both synopsises or summaries of what's going on in the text, which is different from theme, which we will talk about. All right, now theme. Theme is a generalization about life. It's a moral. Both theme and central idea are the author's message to the reader, only the theme is the lesson of the story and the central idea is what the story is about. We talked about this when we were talking about Avengers, how the plot and the summary of the plot, which is the main or central idea, was different from those themes about friendship and heroism. In class, we talked about many ways and techniques to find the central idea. So here's a checklist of some of the things you should be doing before you read, during the reading, and after you read to find the central idea. Before you read, you should be reading the title. What is the text about? What is the topic? The title can tell you so much right away and can be that major piece of evidence that helps you understand the central idea. What you should be doing during the reading, you should look for and carefully read text features. Look for information, words, and pictures that are repeated. Check the captions, subtitles, and headings. So we talked about using these methods for both fiction and nonfiction texts. When we're doing a close reading, we need to constantly be analyzing the text features to observe what they tell us about the story. After you read, think about the most important point about the topic, what details or examples back up or support the central idea. Reflect on what you just read and absorb that information and think about what stood out most to you. Next, we're going to be closely reading this text together. Your assignment for Friday is going to be very similar to this. It's to read a passage and highlight the evidence for a central idea and underline the supporting details that help support that idea. Pay close attention because this is exactly how I want you to do your independent practice for Friday. We're going to be reading Deep Sea Treasure Hunters by Ramona Rivera, and as we're reading, we're going to be highlighting and underlining evidence. Deep Sea Treasure Hunters by Ramona Rivera. So I'm going to stop right now and highlight Deep Sea Treasure Hunters. That tells me that this paragraph, this passage, might be about deep sea treasure hunters, which would help me develop the central idea. Deep sea diving is a dangerous but fascinating activity. Some people dive for fun or sport, and some make a career out of hunting for sunken treasure. These types of career divers fall into one or of two categories: those who want to study their discoveries and those who want to sell the treasures they find. So I'm going to highlight this sentence. These types of career divers fall into one or two categories because I'm going to assume that the central idea, or what the main idea of this passage is going to be about, is these two categories of divers. The divers who study sunken treasure are concerned with preservation of the sites. These divers often locate maps and study shipwrecks. When they find a site, the divers are interested in using the information that the treasure provides to form a story about the ship that wrecked. By studying artifacts such as coins or jewelry found at a site, these divers learn many things about the lives of the ship's passengers. They also learn more about the cargo and the daily lives of the sailors aboard the ship. Sometimes they even learn why the ship sinks. So, the gist of this paragraph is basically talking about that first type of diver, the ones who study their discoveries, right? So, I'm going to highlight the topic sentence because it's basically telling me about the topic that those who study treasures are concerned with preserving the site. And I'm going to underline that because that's helping me support the development of my central idea. On to the next paragraph. The deep sea divers pursuing profit must carefully research their sites to make sure it is legal to take artifacts from the location. They must also take measures to preserve the artifacts so that they don't corrode and lose value once they are recovered. For these deep sea divers, the measure of their success is the dollar value of the treasures they find. So now we know that this gist for this paragraph is about the deep sea divers that pursue profit. And so I'm going to highlight this topic sentence as well and underline it because this again is another piece of evidence supporting my central idea that this passage was about the two categories of deep sea treasure hunters. All right, now I'm going to close it out. Whether deep sea divers wish to study treasure or collect it, divers must obey the laws, dive in teams, and be careful at all times. We must respect the power and mystery of our oceans if we hope to uncover these hidden treasures. So the last thing I'm going to underline is whether deep sea divers wish to study treasure or collect it, because that was basically the central idea of this passage. It was telling us or informing us about deep sea divers, these two categories of deep sea divers. So we learned about the ones that study the discoveries and the ones that make a profit off the discoveries. So that was the takeaway that we got. Wrapping this review of Central Idea up, you have an assignment that's due Friday, March 27th. Your assignment is to complete the worksheet for this lesson. You will be answering some questions based on a review of Central Idea. You will also practice finding the central idea by a close reading of Angela Lee Duckworth's Grit Speech. Be sure to read the directions and the questions for this worksheet very carefully. This first part is asking you to answer the following questions in complete sentences and refer back to the PowerPoint if you need. These are questions that I think that you could and should be able to answer without a reference, but there is no shame in referring back to the PowerPoint. This next part, your independent practice, is asking you to read the passage below, which is Grit by Angela Lee Duckworth. And as you read, highlight evidence from the text that determine the central idea and underline supporting details of the central idea. So basically exactly what we just did, and for you to receive full credit, I need to see highlighted parts of the text as well as underlined parts of the text. There is also a link that I provided for you to be able to view the speech as well as watch it. However, your work needs to be on the text of the speech. Lastly, I want you to answer the questions below. Just basically writing what the central idea of the speech was, 2 supporting details for the central idea of the speech, and ask yourself how easy or difficult was it to pinpoint the central idea and what methods helped you the most. I really want you guys to work on answering in complete sentences, which means restating the question, because that is something that we should definitely be doing in 7th grade. And that is it for our central idea review. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Miss Allen and I are pretty good at answering them quickly. I will see you guys on Friday for the Google Meet Hangouts. We'll be doing a video conference as a class on Google Meet. Brown's time will be 11 to 11:30 a.m. and Teal's time will be 12 to 12:30 p.m. We're going to provide more information in the coming days, but I'll see you guys next Wednesday as well for another review.